Yeah, but the rubber's way harder than when we started.
That's why braking went from 140 feet to almost 170.
And people think tread means safe.
Not after 50,000 miles.
I tested 17 tire brands for 50,000 miles. Only one proved truly safe. Most drivers think if their tires still have tread, they're safe.
Whoa, why did it slide?
Yeah, tread looks good.
After testing 17 tire brands across 50,000 miles, I discovered something disturbing. Many tires become dangerous while they still look perfectly fine. And only one tire stayed consistently safe the entire time. Today, I'm exposing which tires actually protect you and which ones quietly stop working. Let's break this down. After testing 17 different brands, they didn't just rank from best to worst, they fell into 6 clear categories of performance. Some failed early. Some slowly became dangerous. A few stayed consistent. And only one truly proved itself over time. The first category that failed shocked me the most. Number 6, the budget trap. Budget tires always look tempting. Lower price, long warranties, aggressive tread patterns. On paper, they look like a smart deal. When new, most of them stopped a car from about 140 feet at 60 miles per hour in wet braking tests. Not amazing, but acceptable. For the first few thousand miles, they felt normal. Dry grip was fine, ride comfort was decent, road noise was manageable. But then things started changing. At 15,000 miles, stopping distance increased. By 20,000 miles, the numbers jumped dramatically. What used to stop in 140 feet now needed 170 feet or more. That's 3 extra car lengths in an emergency. And here's the scary part. The tires still looked healthy. Plenty of tread, no obvious warning, but the rubber compound had hardened. And when rubber hardens, grip disappears. During one heavy rainstorm test, one budget tire began hydroplaning at just 55 miles per hour. That should never happen with tires that still have usable tread. These tires didn't fail dramatically, they failed silently, and that's what makes them dangerous. And that raised a bigger question. If the cheapest tires failed this early, what about the mid-range tires everyone recommends? Number 5, the false middle ground. Mid-range tires promise something very appealing, premium performance for less money. And at first, they deliver. When new, several of them stopped in 138 to 142 feet. Comfort was good, handling felt confident, road noise stayed low. For the first 15 to 20,000 miles, I thought some of these might actually win the test. Then the slow decline started. Not dramatic, just subtle changes. Stopping distances slowly stretched. Hydroplaning started earlier in standing water. By 30,000 miles, the difference was impossible to ignore. A tire that once stopped in 140 feet now needed 165 feet or more. Still usable, but no longer impressive. And the worst part? Drivers wouldn't notice. The tires still looked good, still felt normal, but the safety margin was shrinking. These were the tires I started calling false security. They earn your trust early, then slowly stop delivering when you need them most. Which made me wonder something else. If mid-range tires slowly fade, what happens with premium tires everyone trusts? Number 4, the early stars that faded. Some premium tires are incredible when new. Sharp steering, strong wet braking, quiet highway rides. For the first 20,000 miles, a few of these dominated my testing. Stopping distances were excellent, around 132 to 136 feet in the rain. Cornering felt precise. Ride comfort felt refined. I was convinced one of them would easily win. But then, the numbers started shifting. At 30,000 miles, wet braking increased. At 40,000 miles, it had jumped significantly. One premium tire lost almost 30 feet of stopping performance compared to when it was new. That's 2 car lengths. And again, the tread still looked strong. This wasn't tread wear, it was compound aging. These tires gave amazing performance early, then slowly drifted toward mediocrity. Premium price, but fading performance. And at this point, only 3 tire types were still competing for the top spot. Number 3, the consistent survivors. These tires never impressed me, but they also never scared me. When new, their wet braking distances were around 145 feet, not the best, but respectable. At 20,000 miles, they were still close to that. At 35,000 miles, they had only slipped slightly. Even at 45,000 miles, they remained predictable. No sudden drops, no scary hydroplaning moments, no surprises. These tires aged honestly, and honestly matters. In emergencies, predictability is safety. But there was still a problem. They were consistently average, and average sometimes isn't enough. Which brings us to the tire everyone expected to win. Number 2, the legendary Benchmark. If you know tires, you probably already know this brand. It's the Benchmark, the reputation leader, the one everyone compares against. And honestly, it lived up to the hype. When new, these tires stopped in about 131 feet. Excellent. At 25,000 miles, they barely changed. At 40,000 miles, they were still performing incredibly well. The compound aged beautifully. The ride stayed smooth. Wet grip remained strong. For most drivers, these would easily be the best tire they ever buy. But during repeated wet braking tests, one tire kept beating it, over and over again. And I honestly didn't believe it at first, so I repeated the test 5 times. The numbers didn't change. Which brings us to the tire that won the entire experiment. Number 1, the tire that stayed safe. By 50,000 miles, most tires in this test had changed dramatically. Stopping distances had increased, hydroplaning resistance had dropped, compounds had hardened. But one tire kept doing something remarkable. It stayed consistent. At 5,000 miles, it stopped in 129 feet. At 20,000 miles, it was still almost identical. At 35,000 miles, the numbers barely moved. And even at 50,000 miles, it was still outperforming most competitors. The rubber stayed flexible, the grip stayed strong, and hydroplaning resistance remained excellent. That combination is extremely rare. Most tires aged like fruit. This one aged like engineered equipment. The tire that won the entire test was Bridgestone Turanza Quiet Track. It delivered the shortest wet braking distances, the smallest performance drop over time, and the strongest hydroplaning resistance after tens of thousands of miles, which ultimately proves something important. Tires don't become unsafe only when the tread is gone. Many become unsafe long before that. And if you're choosing tires based only on price or reputation, you might be trusting the wrong thing. Tell me in the comments, what tire brand are you running right now? And after hearing this, would you still trust it in heavy rain?